Warning, this video was slightly rushed and the information about the vehicles in this video might not be entirely historically accurate. This is because the information was very difficult to find and it took many attempts to record this video and my temper was running a bit short. So if you want to find more information about these vehicles, then I suggest you find some books or incredibly accurate websites. That will be very helpful. But other than that, please like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. Thank you for 60 subscribers recently and 5,000 views on 2 of my videos combined. It is very appreciated. But anyways, I hope you enjoy this short history lesson and let's get on with the video. Hello YouTube and welcome back to another history lesson. Today, you guys seem to really enjoy the first one that I made quite a while ago. So, we are back again. In this episode we'll be covering the Willys Jeep, the Leopard 2A and another tank that quite a few people might not even realise existed. But first let's start off with this, the Willys Jeep. And also YouTube, it's literally called a Willys Jeep. Don't think, yeah. Anyway, the Jeep, it was a very common Jeep used by the American forces and eventually the British as well during World War II. And it was quite a well-known Jeep. It was quite good off-road. It didn't have the highest top speed, but it could get up to quite high speeds back in the day. And as you will see, it has a little bar at the front on this version, and there is a reason. You see, when you actually get into GTA 5 and you get the Jeep, like you buy it and it goes into your garage, it doesn't actually come with this bar. You have to come to one of these Los Santos Customs and you have to customize it. There's nothing wrong with it, shut up. So you'll see, I think it's the bodywork. No, okay, right, where is it? It's here. Okay, so the pole bumper. So this is what you need if you want to go full historian mode. And basically the pole bar actually the pole at the front of the Jeep has quite an interesting story behind it. You see, during World War II, the Germans would lay sets of traps all the way along back to Germany on the retreat, and one of them was very painful. Because what they would do is, in Germany and France, between the two borders, there are a lot of forests. And between the forests, they would put piano strings between trees lined up on different dirt paths. And because the Americans like to drive the Jeeps with this, the window, folded down, you can see where this is going. They would drive really quickly and they would hit the string at roughly neck level and they would get their heads chopped off. So what they had to do was they actually put this pole at the front of the Jeep and it would cut the piano string. It was usually piano strings because they were quite a good resource and material, because piano strings were only made for pianos, but obviously they didn't need them during the war, so they decided, you know what, we'll use piano strings instead of normal string. And also piano strings are quite hard to see and they're very tough. But with this pole at the front, the Jeeps were actually able to cut through the piano strings and it would save the soldiers inside. So that's a short lesson on the Jeep. Let's move on to the tanks. Okay, so we've looked at the Willys Jeep and now we're going to look at something a bit more modern and a bit, well, bigger than the Jeep. This is the Rhino Tank from GTA, and it's probably the first tank you'll ever get. which because it only costs about $1 million in-game dollars. But in real life, it would be the Leopard 2A tank used by the German military even today. So, the Leopard 2A was designed in the 1970s. It basically took every German manufacturer to create this thing. And my goodness, it is now one of the greatest MBT's, main battle tanks, even today, after about 50 years in service. So, why is this tank so good? Well, it has decent armor, a very good gun, and good mobility. With an engine generating over 1,000 horsepower and torsion bar suspension, it's able to get around 40 to 50 kilometers per hour off-road. With its 120mm Rheinmetall L44, I think, on this variant, smoothbore gun, it was able to fire quite good ammunition that could penetrate any armor of any other enemy tank. Especially Russian ones. However, it's sort of, I won't go into detail, but when it comes to shooting enemy tanks, you need to know what part to shoot. And with this tank, the lower plate and the turret were both well protected, with a cool, well, not cool, that's childish, with quite a big machine gun at the top, well protected commander's cupola, and smoke grenades as well. It was a pretty decent tank back in the 1970s, and it's still a decent tank today. However, in this game, it doesn't obviously drive as fast as it does in real life. Yeah, it's quite slow. This is about half the speed it would go in real life. And the turret speed, although... yeah, it is quick in this game, but it's not too far off in real life, because in real life the turret can make it around in about 9 seconds, which is still pretty fast, considering back in the 1930s you had to turn it by hand. So, yeah, it's still a really good tank today. It's got 2 machine guns, one in the turret, one in the commander's cupola. And it has about 6 road wheels on each side in real life, but in this game it's obviously 5. So that's the thing is, the armor in the tank as well, it's not really a great thing to talk about because most of it is classified, but the main thing is that the metal itself is not very thick, but it's got a lot of very good composite armor on the inside of the tank, and that sort of, it's basically a way to slow down enemy shells. I've done this way too many times. Let's just move on to the next and last tank, and while I'm getting there, me in the edit, why don't you show everyone all of the failed attempts of making this program? Why not? On to the next and last vehicle. Now we are going to be looking at something a bit more bigger. For flipping out. This is the Rhino Tank in GTA, probably the first tank you've ever got, because it's the cheapest one at about $1 million in-game dollars. Really? So, it was designed during the 1970s because for flipping out. Okay, so while we're on our way to our next location for the next vehicle, I'm trying to wait for the rain to go. Might as well talk about this, the Volatile Jet in GTA 5. Although it is quite an expensive and rubbish vehicle in the game, it was quite a good vehicle in real life, as this is based off of the Vulcan jet bomber by the British during, again, the 1970s. Shut up, god damn it. So, the Vulcan jet was a bomber designed by the British, and it was designed during the Cold War, around 1950s, 60s, and so on. And It's basically our British nuclear bomber. Yep, this thing can carry a nuclear bomb, and it can travel from Britain to Russia in about maybe 4 to 6 hours, which was pretty fast, not gonna lie. In this game though, it is a very slow, impractical jet, and also the fact that it has turrets on the front, top and bottom of the nose of the plane, yeah, those didn't exist either. So although the accuracy with the jets are quite nice, the turrets were not there. And it is quite interesting how this thing only carries about 25 bombs of your choice. So yeah, pretty useless in the game, but pretty interesting in real life. As the rain still hasn't cleared, I'm now at the airport with my Vulcan jet, and I have stumbled across this. This is the Titan in GTA. Again, quite a cheap aircraft. Well, compared to other aircraft in the game, especially that $10 million golden luxury private jet. But this is the Titan, and it is actually based off of the AC-130 in real life, used by the US military. And although people will already be saying, oh, it's not the AC-130, you can't see the massive Vulcan minigun on the side or any of the 105mm cannons, it's still an AC-130 because of the variant. Because this is the People Carriers version. There were multiple variants of different aircraft, tanks, and even boats in real life. For example, you've got heavy, medium, and light tanks. You've got people carriers and support aircraft and bomber aircraft, and then you've got destroyers, battleships, cruisers, aircraft carriers for boats as well. So this is the People Carriers AC-130. It can carry quite a lot of men in the back, mostly soldiers and paratroopers, and even cargo. And it was also used for evacuation missions. And yes, there was another variant with other types of weaponry inside instead of cargo and seating areas. But that's for another time. But all in all, a very nice little plus that they added to the game. An AC-130. Pretty neat. And now, for our final vehicle of this episode. We have got quite a special one today. It is, well, I don't know, hang on, I need to search this up on here for the actual name of it, because people just call it the Kanjali Tank, but it actually has a much more, well, full name. And it is the TM-02 Kanjali Tank. But yes, it is hard to believe, but this vehicle is actually based off a vehicle in real life, and it is the PL-01 light support tank. Well, I say light support tank. It is quite a big vehicle, but it's definitely not as heavy as the main battle tanks, such as the Leopard that we just mentioned. So this tank, it's used by both the Polish and UK military, but very rarely, because, well, it's not really a main battle tank. It is, like I said, a light support vehicle, meant to carry troops to the front line and support them. With either, well, it depends again on the variant. It could either have a 105, but on this variant, obviously, a 120mm caliber main cannon. When I say 120mm cannon, like I said in the Leopard as well, that's basically how big the diameter of the barrel is. Obviously the sizes are a bit different in the game, but, well, they try to represent it in the game as they do in real life. Okay, so I'm about to explain what explosive reactive armor is, however I just call it reactive armor. However, there are other types of reactive armor that I don't mention, including non-energetic reactive armor, non-explosive reactive armor, and also self-limiting explosive reactive armor as well. Unfortunately, I don't recognize this in the recording, and I just call it reactive armor. However, it should be explosive reactive armor, which is what this tank has. So this tank actually doesn't have composite armor inside. Instead, it has reactive armor. Basically, the reactive armor creates a smaller explosion inside the tank that stops the shell, basically. So when a shell is fired at this tank, it goes through the steel armor, the composite steel armor, and instead it hits the reactive armor on the inside, which then detonates and it slows down the shell. However, the main disadvantage to reactive armor is that it's not really replenishable. So once it's used up, it needs to be replaced with more reactive armor instead of just using the rest of it, if you know what I mean. So in the game it comes with grenade launchers, however this would not be the case in real life, and it also does actually have a remote controlled machine gun on the top. To be more precise, a 7.62mm machine gun. The diesel engine in this tank generated about 940 horsepower, and it had torsion bar suspension. And this means, because it's a more lighter vehicle, it could have a top speed of around 50 kilometers an hour or 31 miles per hour on rough terrain. Obviously, since this vehicle was designed in 2013, it's a very recent tank, it hasn't really taken part in any wars just yet. However, the design of this tank and its use are starting to show effect to other countries around the world, especially Germany and America, as recently they've also created a new tank that looks a little bit like this, just recently. Rheinmetall are the ones that made it, and the Americans are buying it, you know, like they do with every other German invention. Sorry America, I had to do it. So that's it for this episode, I guess. We've discovered two types of tanks, the Willys Jeep and the Vulcan and AC-130. Next episode we will be looking into more detail in aircraft especially, and after that we might look at boats as well. But until then, I shall see you all later. Bye bye.